You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Floors Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Hello folks, and welcome to another episode of Wayback Wednesday. Good to have you with us. I'm Randy Adcox. We're going to start off tonight's show by going back and visiting some of the pictures that we looked at last week. We've had a lot of good interest in a lot of those pictures. I want to again thank Mr. Wallace Abernathy for sending me a bunch of those pictures. They have really generated a lot of interest from the viewers, and I've heard from a couple of you today. And so again, I just want to thank Mr. Abernathy, and anyone else who would like to share pictures with us, feel free to give me a call. You can call the station, 407-1111, or you can call me on my cell phone, 252-883-1123 is my cell, and call me anytime after hours, after the show and we'll get together. I'll get your pictures, and we'll get them scanned and get them into the system, and I'll get the originals back to you. So anyway, a couple of things I wanted to cover. There was some more information that Mr. Wallace sent along with the pictures, and I didn't realize the extent of all the extra information until I was going back over my notes and my email, in fact, from him. He and I have exchanged a couple of emails, and a couple of them I thought were really interesting, and I wanted to share at least part of those with you tonight. And maybe next week we'll do another one. It was 3 or 4 different pages in addition to the pictures that were just historical facts and kind of neat things about Rocky Mount, specifically about buildings and businesses up and down Main Street and downtown Rocky Mount in general. So I'm going to just start off with one of them. This is actually, and I'm not sure who generated this, so if anyone has information to contribute to this, feel free to give us a call. Again, the number is 407-1111. But this is actually titled Main Street, Rocky Mount, North Carolina, 1908 to 1920, and this is the Edgecombe County side, the east side of the railroad track. And it goes by the addresses, and there's several businesses here, and one building particularly that has several businesses in that building. So this is the shorter of the 3 or 4 documents that he sent me. So I wanted to start with this tonight. Obviously, this is before any of our time, so I dare say we don't have anybody watching that remembers any of this stuff. But I just thought it was neat to kind of look back. And next week we'll do another one, and the week after that we'll do another one, because there's just a lot of interesting information here. But this is from 1908, 1909. And again, we're talking about Main Street on the Edgecombe County side, which is the east side of the railroad track there. So at 109 Southeast Main Street was Griffin's Drugstore. At the corner of Main and Tarboro. Actually, this was in 1908, this very first store listing here. So Griffin's, if you remember, some weeks back we actually did an episode about drugstores in Rocky Mount, and this was one of the ones that I remember we talked about. But it was listed in 1908 as being at the corner of Main and Tarboro Street, and again, it was Griffin's Drugstore. In 1920, the National Bank of Rocky Mount was at 109 Southeast Main Street. And obviously these had the same address, and so I'm guessing that the drugstore must have rented a space within the bank, because they're both listed as 109 Southeast Main Street, unless there's a typo here. It may be. But in any case, there's also several listings of rooms and spaces within the bank building where different companies and people were renting space. So I'll read through those now. On the first floor was banking facilities. On the second floor was insurance companies. On the third floor there were various rooms. Room 300, Mr. J.D. Brock was a broker. Room 302, George R. Adobe was an auditor and a public accountant. And again, this is 1920, by the way. This is the National Bank, which later became People's Bank, of course. But in any case, room 304 was Mr. Aaron T. Griffin. He was an insurance man. Room 303 to 307 Daniel L. Knowles and John L. Lane, who were physicians. Room 306 to 316, Mr. Elmer G. Hornbeck. I'm not quite sure what an osteopath is, but there was an osteopath who rented room 306 to 316 in the bank building. Room 400 was the Dixie Auto Supply Company, sold tires and etc. Room 401 to 402 was John J. Wells, Blueprints, County Maps with Brinkley. And I've got to call my friend and customer, John Wells here, the attorney at Rocky Mountain, and see if this is perhaps his grandfather. Anyway, room 403, Life and Casualty Insurance Company. Room 404, Joseph P. Wembley, a physician. Room 406, Mayor I. Fleming and Claiborne Smith, who were physicians. Major I misread that. Major I. Fleming and Claiborne Smith, who were physicians. Room 412 to 416, Clyde Minges, dentist. There's a name we all recognize, at least those of us old enough to remember the Minges family in Rocky Mount. On the 5th floor, by the way, that was on the 4th floor. Starting with room 400, that was the 4th floor. The 5th floor, room 504, was Frank Spruill, an attorney. Room 504 also was the office of Edwin Smith, who was a notary public. And room 506 was John Odom, who was an attorney. So again, this is just one page, and this was obviously talking about this bank building, the National Bank of Rocky Mount, as it was known in 1920. Later years, it would become the People's Bank. And I had an opportunity, it's been several months ago now, to go in this building. And it's a neat old building. They've really done a marvelous job of remodeling the inside. The company that's in it now is a national company. They just got a branch here in Rocky Mount, but they've got the whole building. And I was not allowed to go upstairs and enter the rooms up there. I did kind of get a permission to do a walkthrough downstairs, and in fact, I think I've got some pictures of that building I took. I'll try to get those on the air on one of the upcoming shows here. But I just thought it was neat to look back. Like I said, this is from 1908. I see now, 1908 was when Griffin's Drugstore was there. I'm not sure when the bank was built. I think this bank was here prior to 1920. But anyway, at 1920, this is when this starts off listing all these businesses and different occupants of the bank building. So anyway, I thought it was something neat I wanted to share with you. And again, I've got one corresponding to this for the west side of Main Street, and I'll try to get that on next week. So I'll tell you what let's do. Lee, let's go ahead and take a look at our first picture. Again, some of these we're going to take a look back from last week's show, and I've got some more information to share with you. So as we go through, if you got any comments or calls or any memories, give us a call. 407-1111 is the number. And okay, this one, you remember we had a few weeks ago, this is the Battleboro adult men's baseball team, and I really meant to bring this on last week. Bob Merritt was able to contact the original owner of the picture. If you remember, the one we shared originally a couple of weeks ago was kind of blurry, especially on the left-hand side. And so I asked Bob if it'd be possible to get the original, and he made some phone calls and some inquiries and actually got a little 3x5 picture that I was able to scan first of all and then blow it up, and it made a much, much clearer picture. And we're not exactly sure. We're thinking this is in the late 1940s, perhaps 1947, 48, somewhere along in there. And Bob has identified some of these people, and we'll start with row. Oh, by the way, if you remember from a couple of weeks ago when we did this show originally, or this picture, the bat boy was Kirby Everett, and then on row 1, the bottom row, left to right, Gilbert Pope, Ray Davenport, Ferdy Archibald, Harold Lynn Harrison. Couldn't identify the 5th player. Number 6 is Gilbert Williams. Number 7 was Tom Williams. And then on the back row, and I zoomed in on this and tried scanning several times, and that back left picture was just so blurry. That person back there, it was so dark, I should say. I think his ball cap really shaded his face at the point where I just couldn't get a good, clear image of him, so we could not identify him. But number 2, Maynard Price. Number 3, Ray Everett. Number 4, Ray Johnson. Number 5, we weren't able to identify. Number 6, George Stewart. Number 7, Gene Cook. And number 8, who's also the coach, was Henry Milgram. So again, this is the Brattleboro men's baseball team. And I actually did make some copies of this. I saved it after I was able to scan it and blow it up. So if anybody knows any of these ball players, or perhaps you recognize yourself in here, and Bob made a point of saying he wouldn't bet his life on these identifications here. It is possible that he could have got one or two confused. May not be in exact right order. He was first to admit he was going by memory. So if anyone recognizes a name here that we've misidentified, give us a call, let me know, and we'll certainly correct that. And if anyone would like a copy of this, let me know, because they're digital copies, but I can make multiple prints. In other words, I can print off as many as we need. So again, 1947-48, we think, Brattleboro men's baseball team. Okay, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. And this next picture was one of the ones that was sent to me by Wallace Abernathy as well. And this picture here was, bear with me a minute here, let me get my notes together here. Okay, this one from, I thought I had a note here with the date of this picture. Maybe I don't. I thought I did. I guess we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello there, you on the air? Hello, it's Eric. Eric, can you hear me? Eric? Okay, I'm going to hang up and let this call back. We got a bad connection, I guess. Okay, not sure what happened there. Let me just make sure we got good dial tone. Okay, we've got dial tone. I might not have caught the call in time. So, Eric, here we go. Let's try it again. Hello there, you on the air?
All right, the picture that you referred to with the baseball players on it.
Yeah.
Individual named Ray Davenport.
Right.
You say that picture was taken when?
We're not exactly sure. We're thinking somewhere around 1947, 1948.
Okay, well, Ray Davenport got drowned at Nag's Head on Labor Day weekend, 1948. He was the son of Henry Davenport and Sidney Thomas Davenport.
Okay.
And he would have been born in 1927. He would have been a first cousin to my mother.
Okay.
Right.
So that there's a possibility this picture could have been taken just before he died, if indeed it was taken in 1948. He could have gone to the beach and then came back. Had his picture and then gone to the beach, I should say.
He wound up having 1 year of college at NC State, and they were at Nag's Head on Labor Day weekend of 1948 when he got tangled up in the undertow and got drowned. And there were several people with him from Rocky Mountain named Bunny Bunn and David Davenport, who was a cousin to Ray. He was down there. They were college-age boys when Ray Davenport lost his life in the surf at Nag's Head on Labor Day weekend of 48.
Now, and I'm guessing Bertsy and David's son, Ray, must have been named after this fella here.
That is correct.
Okay. All right, buddy, thank you.
Okay.
All right. There we go. So again, if anyone knows any more about the ball players or thinks you recognize any of them, let me know, and we'll certainly try to update the picture here. But in any case, there you go. All right, Lee, let's go ahead then to I thought I had a note about when this picture here was made, and I apologize, I guess. I'm thinking it was somewhere. Oh, here we go. I know what I wanted to read something. This was a little history of Rocky Mount that Mr. Abernathy sent also, and I want to read this while we're here. It says, the announcement that the Cambridge Hotel will be taken down causes some of the old-timers to compare notes as to its building, the time when it took prestige over the Woodard Hotel, located at the corner of Thomas and Main Streets, and the Hammond and Marriott hotels that were located between the Cambridge and the railroad station. The Cambridge was Rocky Mount's first brick hotel, and when it threw open its doors around 1905, it was the pride of the late Isaac Levy, its builder, and a group of associates in a stock company of which he was the titular head. But the hotel business underwent some rapid changes in the 5-year period that followed. For Mrs. M.O. Winstead closed the Woodard Hotel, the Hammond Hotel under the management of Mr. Griffin was burned, and the Marriott Hotel was leased by Mr. T.L. Bland, who arrived on the scene around 1905. There was, however, a brief fling at the hotel business by the late Joe Cuthrell prior to the Bland lease. It was around 1906 that Mr. Bland and the late R.H., that's Robert H. Ricks, associated themselves in the building of the Ricks Hotel on the site of the Cuthrell Marriott Hotel at the corner of Main and Hammond Streets. At the onset, it was possessed of 75 rooms, and as a parenthesis, it says all outside. I'm not sure what that means unless all the rooms were facing around the perimeter of the building. I guess is what it meant. And 40 baths. The Cambridge Hotel continued to claim its place at the hotel firmament as it was 3 stories and provided 42 rooms with a private bath in the larger portion of them and a telephone in each room. Its early advertising pointed to the fact that it was constructed of stone and pressed brick and in itself an imposing structure. Both hotels boasted of their dining room and an American plan of a charge per day for guests, and a stay which provided for 3 meals served at stated hours in their dining room was the daily procedure. Many a business undertaking took form in discussion in their rooms, lobbies, and dining rooms, and it was an event about which you told your friends if you might be invited to the Cambridge or to the Ricks for a meal. Their dining rooms were the scene of such annual social gatherings as the annual Pythian banquet, along with the gatherings of other fraternal and social groups. Rocky Mount didn't have a service club until Kiwanis was established in 1920 with 30 members. The Cambridge has truly been a landmark during 60 years of this city's history. So I'm not sure when this document was created, but it gives some real interesting history about the Woodard Hotel, the Hammond Hotel, the Marriott Hotel, of course, the Ricks Hotel. And I did some searching today, tried to find a picture of the Woodard Hotel, and have not been able to find one yet. If anyone wants to do a little digging, I did find a reference to it in the Rocky Mount Record newspaper. The Woodard Hotel was only in existence from like 1905 to 1910, somewhere along in there, and I think it was a 1906 reference that I saw in the Rocky Mount Record newspaper, but I was not yet able to find a picture. So I'm going to keep digging and see if I can find a picture of that. But I don't recall seeing this particular picture of the Cambridge Hotel prior to receiving this one from Mr. Abernathy. So Lee, I tell you what, let's go to the next picture. I think there's 2 of the Cambridge Hotel. I'm sorry. This is actually the Epstein picture. Wait a minute, Lee, back up a minute, because I could have sworn there was 2 pictures. Is that the same one we just looked at? I was thinking there was 2 of the Cambridge Hotel. Okay, there you go. I thought I remember there being 2 of them. Okay, so, yeah, and there's 2 different angles of the same building, obviously, but, and again, it looked like the Cambridge was open around 1905, it says here, and I'm not exactly sure how long it was open, but in any case, it was one of Rocky Mount's finest for sure, right up there with the Ricks Hotel. Okay, so the next picture, Lee, is that Epstein picture. And it says here, Eli Epstein took over this building and remodeled it to house his clothing store with offices on the 2nd floor. This picture was taken in 1914. The date at the top of the building reads 1912, and it's of course on the corner of Northeast Main and Tarver Street goes by there. So anyway, apparently Epstein was not the first owner of that building. They moved in it in 1914, it says. Well, let me back up. It says the picture was taken in 1914, so I don't know. They very well could have built it. I'm not certain about that. If anybody's got any more information want to share with us, give us a call. But I do recall seeing the 1912 on the very front facing of that building. And this picture, of course, was taken in 1914, as the caption reveals there. So, okay. All right, Lee, let's go to the next picture. And this next one is actually of the Kaiser Drug, and we showed an image of this last week, if you remember, and there's been a correction. I think on the original picture it was dated like 1920, if I remember correctly, and Mr. Abernathy edited the picture and corrected the date on it and sent it back to me, so this is the corrected, and this is 1912, you see at the bottom of your picture there. And at this point, Rocky Mount appears to have still had dirt roads, certainly on Main Street anyway. I would venture to say if there was no paved Main Street, there probably wasn't any paved streets anywhere in Rocky Mount, with the exception of maybe, well, I don't know. I would have thought Main Street would have been paved if anything else was, but Church Street perhaps because it was a thoroughfare. Church Street may have been paved 1920. I'm not sure. I'll tell you what, Lee, bring it back to me. I think this is a good spot to take a break. And when we come back from the break, if you remember from last week, we had some questions about the Masonic Temple. And there was a Masonic Temple 1, a Masonic Temple 2. We weren't sure if they were one and the same. And so Mr. Abernathy, again, was kind enough to send some more information on that. So when we come back from the break, we'll look into the Masonic Temple. We'll share some information with you that we didn't have last week. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back with more Wayback Wednesday.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Floors Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family. And we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
I'm John Check, resident of Rocky Mount, District 25. We're all waiting to hear from our current North Carolina House representative condemning the actions of Andre Knight and other corruption occurring at City Hall. Why have you not condemned Andre Knight's deliberate and self-serving abuse of power? How many people in our city have had their utilities turned off while Mr. Knight avoided paying $47,704 in utilities? How many people must go without while our city manager, Small Tony, feasts on expensive dinners at the expense of our tax dollars? Why won't you speak up for those who are struggling in our city? Are you seeking to protect Andre Knight and gain his endorsement once again? I'm calling on you, James Gallagher, to demand your friend Andre Knight pay back his debt to our wonderful city and resign. I care about our fellow residents, and I want what is best for all. We need to end this corruption so that our people may thrive once again. My name is John Check, and I approve this ad, paid for by the Committee to Elect John Check, Brad Bobbitt, Treasurer.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
We're in our 18th year of practice at the Hammer Chiropractic Center, and we've seen over 15,000 different people in the Rocky Mount area. 40% of headaches actually come from a neck problem. Many patients come in taking multiple aspirin, over-the-counter medications and such a day, and we can get you to stop doing that and actually fix the problem so the headaches don't rise anymore. A lot of people think chiropractic hurts. It does not. Most of the people come in and they feel great when they leave.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Floors Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, you're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm your host, Randy Adcock. So good of you to join us tonight. Before the break, we were talking about some old pictures that Mr. Wallace Abernathy had sent me. And as you remember from last week's show, there was, I don't know, a dozen or more that he sent. And there was just a couple of pictures that generated some questions. And one of those was the Masonic Temple. About everyone who watches the show regularly knows about the Masonic Temple that's in existence today down on Church Street. But it was actually, what we have found out, there were a total of three Masonic temples. And so, Leah, let's jump right back into pictures and go to this next picture. And this will show actually, I think, both of the Masonic temples, the original two, I should say. Oh, no, this was actually, there you go. And these pictures were put on the same page, and so the clarity is not great. They're obviously old pictures anyway. and I'm not certain, I think these were taken from the Rocky Mount Telegram many years ago, but the caption on the top one, well, let's go to the bottom one first, because the bottom picture caption reads, "A high dive act is being performed in this 1902 photo of the first Masonic temple building. It was built in 1899 and burned in 1904 and succeeded by another temple. It is the site of today's City Hall." So for those that remember when City Hall was down there on Main Street, that's where the original Masonic temple was, built in, we're not sure, built in 1899, and then it burned in 1904. And the top picture is actually the second Masonic temple that was built to replace the first one. And this picture was taken in 1916. And it says it was built to replace the one burned in 1904. It housed the Opera House, now the courtroom of City Hall. So it looks like the bottom picture, of course, was built first, then the top one was built, and both of these were later torn down for various reasons. And of course, the third Masonic temple was the one that we all know about now over on Church Street beside the old Sears location. But there was, I think Eric called in last week and mentioned about a opera house. And as it turns out, there was indeed an opera house in the second Masonic temple, which is one you're looking at right there now. And so, and then in later years, it became a courtroom. And I do not remember that. I'm sure some of you may remember when the courtroom was downtown Rocky Mount on Main Street. I didn't recall that being the case. I remember City Hall being down there, but I didn't remember the courtroom being down there. But anyway, this was where that Opry House that Eric mentioned in last week's show was. And so there was indeed 3 Masonic temples in Rocky Mount over the last, well, I don't know, 100 and some years, starting from 1899, so 121 years there. So anyway, all right, Lee, I tell you, let's go to the next picture then. And this next picture is actually dated 1920, and it's actually a picture of course, the National Bank of Rocky Mount. And I had a little bit of it. It's hard to read that at the bottom, so I made myself some notes here. Again, this is from 1920, and this picture had that bottom caption. It says, Mr. Thomas Battle was the president. Mr. Robert H. Ricks was the vice president. By the way, I think it was Mr. Abernathy that gave me, I don't know, an idea, thought, slogan, if you will. But I wholeheartedly concur with it that in many ways Robert H. Ricks could be considered the father of Rocky Mount. It's a shame he doesn't get more credit for his contributions to this city and this area, this part of the state. And I didn't really give that much thought until very recently when he was to become inducted into the Twin Counties Hall of Fame, and there was quite a bit of behind-the-scenes discussion about his induction and the fact that he was the one who paid for the Confederate monument to be built. And, you know, regardless of how you feel about the Confederate monuments in general, this man, Mr. Robert Henry Ricks, was a major contributor to the success of Rocky Mount over the years. I mean, he was a very wealthy man, obviously, in later years, but he put his money back into the community. He opened businesses. He started businesses and employed thousands of people over the years. A lot of folks don't realize that he and his wife never had any kids, but he set up a trust fund for any one of his family members who wanted to go to college or get a further education could do so. And back in, I want to say 1977, 78, somewhere along there, there was, no, I think it was later than that. I think it was actually in the early 2000s. I spoke with Tracy Thompson at the library several months ago about this, and she had some information. Long story short, though, there was an effort made to contact any remaining heirs of Robert Henry Ricks in the event that any of them wanted to take advantage of basically what amounted to a free college education. He had left the money and made it available to anyone who wanted to go to college. And at that time, it was like 900 people who were found to be heirs of Robert Henry Ricks. Even though he had no kids of his own, he left enough money, and I don't know how many of them took advantage of it. I'm sure not everyone did. Some were probably too old to go to college. But the bottom line is that Mr. Ricks was a very wealthy man, but he was also a very generous man, and he used his money to help develop this city in its very early stages, and he just doesn't get enough credit for being the successful entrepreneur and business tycoon, if you will, that he was. So anyway, getting back to the list of bank executives here, Robert Henry Ricks was the vice president. Mr. A.P. Thorpe was another vice president. Mr. J.L. Suter was a cashier, and I would bet money that's some of Tom Suter and Antoinette Suter's family. Those that know the Suter family, Dr. Suter from Rocky Mount, of course, and Tom Suter, now retired sportscaster from WRL-TV, was here. His sister Antoinette used to be one heck of a pool player. Years ago, when I was a little bit of a pool player myself, I played in a few pool games against Antoinette, and she could hold her own against about anybody. Mr. W.G. Robbins was also an assistant cashier, and Mr. I can't even read my own writing. I was in a hurry when I wrote it. Looks like W.S. Bennett was also an assistant cashier. So anyway, this, again, this is from 1920, I believe it was, and of course it later became People's Bank. At this time, it was the National Bank of Rocky Mount. And again, this came from probably the Rocky Mount Telegram. I'm not exactly sure. There was no indication given as to where the picture was pulled from, but I'm guessing it was Rocky Mount Telegram. So anyway, okay, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. And just looking at my notes here, this may be a duplicate. Well, it's actually a clearer picture, I think. We showed a picture of Epstein's earlier. And these are still some of the ones that were sent to me by Mr. Abernathy. But this one is also dated 1914, so I think it may just be another shot from the same time frame of that other picture we showed a few minutes ago. Again, this was dated 1914, and the building was erected in 1912. So, okay. All right, Lee, let's go ahead then. Let's go to this next picture. This is one that I'm not sure I'd ever seen before, and it was just captioned Rocky Mount Main Street 1800s. And as you can see, the dirt roads there for sure. And we had power. We had power down Main Street, obviously, but no paved streets. And this was certainly, there's very little traffic out there, other than foot traffic, of course. But and you can see the train tracks off to your right. I'm guessing this is on the east side of Rocky Mount, though it's hard to say for sure. That almost looks like the picture we were looking at earlier of the Masonic Temple building there, about mid-screen. So that's what maybe I think it may be on the east side of the railroad track, about midway of Main Street there. But this was it was just captioned as the 1800s. So I would guess late 1800s, but in any case, very old picture of downtown Rocky Mount. Okay, Lee, so let's go to the next picture then. This next picture is actually dated 1907, and this, of course, is the Planters Bank. And you can see, and I think in previous shows, someone probably remember, Eric, if you recognize that hardware store to the left, give us a call, because I know we've talked about it before, and I cannot remember what it was called. By the way, I'm sure everyone by now has seen and heard about the collapse of the wall of the building down on Western Avenue and Main Street yesterday afternoon. I actually rode down there, and I took a couple of pictures from the best vantage point I could get from my truck. I didn't want to get out and walk up there, but it was a mess, needless to say. And of course, it's been on the news and on Channel 5 and everything else since then. And that's a shame, because that building now is going to be demolished, obviously, what little bit is left of it. I think there were some plans to try to do something with it, so it's a shame that won't happen. All right, we got a call. Let's get this call here. Hello, you're on the air.
All right. I'm not exactly 100% sure, but the hardware store that's right there next to where the bank building is the location where earlier on, where the T.J. Hackney man had the buggy manufacturing operation, and they had a fire in that place, and he never wound up rebuilding that buggy and coach business back according to the 1911 Rocky Mount record, and he sold that place, business, etc., to the Gays around there that had the hardware store and the Gays funeral home, and they developed it and put it as a hardware store, and weren't involved anymore in that physical location with buggy manufacturing, is the way I understand that.
And so that building did go all the way through over to Howard Street, right?
Oh yeah, and right there, it's kind of the whole area where Taylor's department store was, and the Carousel Antique store later wound up being there. But that's the location, the way I understand it, where the T.J. Hackney buggy operation was.
Okay. I knew we had talked about it in a prior show, and I couldn't remember, but I think what you're saying sounds familiar. I think that's what I remember too. So I think you're right. All right, buddy. Appreciate it.
See ya.
All righty. Bye-bye. Okay. So Planters Bank, 1907. And that's one of the, like I said, some of these pictures have got a really clear quality to them. So they're not all blurry and grainy, and sometimes it's just a matter of the source. If it was pulled from a newspaper, for example, it's just really hard to take a newspaper image and replicate it without it being a little bit grainy just by the nature of how newspaper print is done anyway. But this is a really clear picture here, and it zooms in really well. On my computer, my office, I can zoom in on this thing and get a really close-up shot of it. So anyway, all right, Lee, let's go to the next picture then. This next one is actually captioned as Rocky Mount, Southwest Maine in the late 1920s. And you can see there, it looks like we still may have dirt roads out here on Main Street. That does not appear to me to be paved anyway. And you see some old horse and buggies up there, and a few Model Ts, it looks like. So this is obviously, there's certainly commerce going on. And, you know, Rocky Mount over the years, of course, keep in mind, well before Tarrytown Mall and Golden East Mall and the business and commerce centers that were outside of the downtown district. For many years, Rocky Mount downtown was a bustling little commerce center. And, you know, it's a shame that we've lost so many of the buildings down there. You know, I'm sure you've probably read this week's paper. You know, Mr. Jesse Gerstle took some heat at the city council meeting this past Monday night. I was there. And, you know, I've met Mr. Gerstle, and he and I have had quite a few discussions over the last several months about his work and his plans for downtown Rocky Mount, his efforts to renovate buildings and restore some of these old buildings and put them back into some kind of use. And I really I congratulated him multiple times, and I appreciate the effort that he and others are putting into trying to do something with downtown Rocky Mount. You know, I know there's an idea that old buildings are not safe. Well, let's get this call here. Hello there, you on the air?
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
I'm good for an old man.
Well, that beats the alternative.
Okay, watching your show.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I remember a long time ago when 301 was on Church Street. Mm-hmm. And the traffic was so heavy that somebody, I don't know if it's the state or the city, they built 301 bypass around Rocky Mount. Mm-hmm. Well, that took traffic out of Rocky Mount.
It did, yes, sir.
And shortly after that, I think there was a gentleman by the name of Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Okay.
Who got the idea from Adolf Hitler about interstate highways, and he built Interstate 95.
Okay.
That took more traffic out of Rocky Mount.
It sure did.
Downtown Rocky Mount just got slower, and slower.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Over the years, its business has just gone away in droves.
I'm sorry to see it, but I believe it's the truth. Okay, you have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for watching the show. We appreciate you. Okay. Yeah, you know, there's no doubt Rocky Mount has suffered by business being diverted away from the downtown area via 301 bypass and I-95. But I do believe, and I guess I'm the eternal optimist, but I do believe that downtown Rocky Mount can be vibrant again. We've got to have a change in leadership, I believe, and I think we've got to have a change in focus. But some of these buildings are not too far gone. If we can get in there now, and people like Jesse Gersel and others who are willing to put forth their own money and do the remodeling and renovations, I think it's a wonderful thing. And I look forward to seeing more of those types of work going on downtown Rocky Mount. I tell you what, Lee, I think it's time for our next commercial break. So let's go ahead and break right now. When we come back, we'll take a look at some more old pictures and we'll take some more of your calls. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back. More Wayback Wednesday.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family. And we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
I'm John Check, resident of Rocky Mount, District 25. We're all waiting to hear from our current North Carolina House representative condemning the actions of Andre Knight and other corruption occurring at City Hall. Why have you not condemned Andre Knight's deliberate and self-serving abuse of power? How many people in our city have had their utilities turned off while Mr. Knight avoided paying $47,704 in utilities? How many people must go without while our city manager, Small Tony, feasts on expensive dinners at the expense of our tax dollars? Why won't you speak up for those who are struggling in our city? Are you seeking to protect Andre Knight and gain his endorsement once again? I'm calling on you, James Galliard, to demand your friend Andre Knight pay back his debt to our wonderful city and resign. I care about our fellow residents, and I want what is best for all. We need to end this corruption so that our people may thrive once again. My name is John Check, and I approve this ad, paid for by the Committee to Elect John Check, Brad Bobbitt, Treasurer.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
We're in our 18th year of practice at the Hammer Chiropractic Center, and we've seen over 15,000 different people in the Rocky Mount area. 40% of headaches actually come from a neck problem. Many patients come in taking multiple aspirin, over-the-counter medications and such a day, and we can get you to stop doing that and actually fix the problem so the headaches don't rise anymore. A lot of people think chiropractic hurts. It does not. Most of the people come in and they feel great when they leave.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
And we're back. Folks, if you're just tuning in, you're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm your host, Randy Adcock. It's good of you to join us tonight. Before the break, we were looking at some old pictures that were sent to us by Mr. Wallace Abernathy, and we were going back and visiting some from last week's show. And I think we got through those. That last one was the last of that bunch. And so we're going to go back and visit another picture from last week that we just did manage to get to as we were going off the air last week. And I really wanted to share some information with you about that picture. So Lee, if you would, let's go to the next picture in sequence there. And there you go. This was the Seaboard Lawn. And as I said, we were really just getting ready to go off the air last week when this picture came up. But it was actually on the corner of the 100 block of South Washington and Tarboro Street, right there where present-day Edgecombe Community College is. And, of course, kind of catty-corners across from the May and Gorham drugstore. And so, anyway, there was just to the left, there was an optometrist, Mr. H.R. Williams, And to the left of Dr. Williams was the Rocky Mount Hatchery, which I'm assuming it even had on the window. When you zoom in, I don't know if you can do it now, Lee, because when I reproduced this picture, I didn't keep it at the same resolution, so it may get kind of blurry if you try to zoom in. But anyway, it does say on the window, it says Rocky Mount Hatchery Baby Chicks. And I just thought that was neat that someone had a store selling baby chicks in downtown Rocky Mount. And around the corner on South Washington Street was Walter Mears' TV at 112 South Washington Street. And then next to Mears TV was the Royal Clothing Company at 118 to 120 South Washington Street. And the reason I want to go back to this picture, particularly that Royal Clothing, you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, back in the background, that kind of white front to that building, that was the Royal Clothing Company. And I seem to recall some years ago, my sister actually worked for a Royal Clothing Company, but it wasn't on Washington Street, as I recall. I was thinking it was somewhere on Main Street, but I couldn't put my finger on where. And I thought I would ask tonight and see if anybody remembers a Royal Clothing Company anywhere on Main Street. My sister is actually on vacation this week, so I can't even call her and ask her. I'm not going to bother her on vacation. But when I was going back over my notes from last week's show, that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up because this picture was taken, by the way, in 1964. That's when this picture was dated, 1964. So sometime after 1964, I think, and it could be two separate businesses that are totally unrelated, but I think the Royal Clothing Company, and more I think about it, I may be confusing that with the OK Clothing Company. I think that's what I've done. I seem to recall there being an OK Clothing that my sister worked for instead of Royal. But anyway, if anybody knows anything about either one of those, let me know. Again, this is 1964, and this was the Seaboard Loan Company on the corner of South Washington Street and Tarboro Street. Okay, Lee, let's jump back into, if you remember 2 or 3 weeks ago, we showed a few pictures of the Glenwood Hall, and I actually stumbled across, purely by accident, another, oh golly, it must be about a dozen. Oh, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello there, you're on the air.
Hey, that J. Royal that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't remember him being on Main Street.
Okay.
But he was the J. Royal. He was out at Terrytown Mall.
Okay.
And he has a shop there on 301, right there at the railroad track where that little shopping center is now.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Is that the same family?
Yeah, it's the same man. J. Roy used to work for that store, but he owns the store.
Okay. Well, I did not realize, I didn't put those two together, but that makes sense now.
But I like I said, I don't remember him ever being on Main Street, but I remember him being on Washington? Washington Street?
Yes, ma'am. That's Washington Street.
Here's TV shop, because he used to come over to my house and ride horses with the man that worked with Mears's.
Okay. You know, I think, the more I've thought about this, I really think I was confusing the Royal Clothing Store with the OK Clothing Store, and I think that's
I
think that's what was on Main Street. Uh-huh. Okay. Thanks so much. Have a good night. Okay. So anyway, as I was looking for some pictures online after last week's show, I actually found a bunch more of these Glenwood Hall pictures, and these were from 2 different time frames. They were both 1950, but the first group is from a Christmas party. And so I thought, you know, anyone who was there in 1950, because that's the date on these pictures, this was actually from Charlie Killebrew's collection online. And if you remember last week, week before last, when we were showing some of these pictures of Glenwood Hall, they were from the Bugs Behringer collection, which I thought was interesting because apparently Bugs Behringer and Charlie Killebrew were both at some of these events and taking pictures. And so these are from Charlie Killebrew's collection. And this first one is just identified as Glenwood Hall Christmas Party 1950. And there's about, I don't know, 8 or 10 of these. So Lee, we'll just go ahead and blow through these pretty quickly. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on them, but I wanted to at least see if anyone recognized themselves. If you see anybody you think you might know, give us a call, 407-1111. These appear to be kindergarten age kids, I'm guessing, which would have put them 5 or 6 years old. So they would have been born around 1945. And like I said, it was just, I don't remember anything about Glenwood Hall personally until I saw the picture a few weeks ago and had a discussion with Eric Dawson about it. I was not even aware it ever existed. So, and for those that don't remember, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, this building was torn down, and it's where the present-day Lakewood Baptist Church is over there on Sunset Avenue. But this was a Christmas party they had, and the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 were a Christmas party, and then there was some more pictures that were of the May Day celebration, and that's what we showed a couple of weeks ago, was some pictures from the May Day celebration that was out there by the city lake. And of course, this building, this facility was right across the street from the city lake, and so they used the area out there by the lake to have their May Day parade, or not parade, but festivities. So, but this is the last of the Christmas picture here, I think. Well, there's Santa. I guess that might be the last one. Some of these adults look vaguely familiar to me, but like I said, this was well before my time, so I don't know if anyone else recognized any of them or not, but I couldn't say for sure I recognized any of them. Okay, Lee, so let's go. I think there's only a few more left in this group. There you go. And again, these are very similar to the ones we saw a couple of weeks ago. And those pictures were taken from the Bugs Behringer collection again, and these were all found under a collection that was categorized as being from Charlie Killebrew. And you see in the background there the old power plant across the other side of the city lake there. And one thing that struck me, these trees that are out here now are much bigger today, obviously. This was, what, 60-some years ago. Almost 70 years ago. So obviously those trees have grown quite a bit in the 70 years since these pictures were taken. But this was again the Glenwood Hall, and this was May the 5th of 1950. The May Day, not May 5th, May Day celebration in 1950. And I think there's like I don't know, 3 or 4 more of these, Lee, and you can just kind of blow through if you want to. I don't want to. They're very similar to the ones that Bugs Behringer took, but I just thought they were neat, and it was kind of ironic that 2 prominent local photographers both were on site at these events, well, certainly the outside event, the May Day event anyway, and took a bunch of pictures. And I think that may be the last one in that group. There you go. Okay, this picture right here, I'd never heard of this company, and I found 4 pictures that were simply identified as Wheeler Imperial. So, and this was the first picture. So if anyone knows anything about Wheeler Imperial, give us a call. 407-1111 is the number, but I'm assuming this was the office for Wheeler Imperial. I don't know who any of these people are, and just looking at the furniture and the clothing, I would say this is probably in the 1950s, maybe early 60s. But Lee, let's go just one by one. Let's kind of go through this and see if we can identify any more about them. All right, it looks to be there, that's like a hardware store. So I'm guessing maybe Wheeler Imperial was a hardware store or general merchandise store. I'm not sure what that banner above there says. I see Saw Chain, that round turkey-looking. I'm guessing that's supposed to be representative of a chainsaw there. I'm not sure, but anyway, I don't know where this was. Let's go to the next one, Lee. And again, there was 4 of these, and they were all identified as Wheeler Imperial. So if anybody knows anything about Wheeler Imperial, give us a call, and I'll try to find out some more about it. I actually had this queued up for last week. They must have sold farm equipment too, because this is actually the last one in the group here, but it was identified also as Wheeler Imperial. So, okay. This next picture, Lee, this was the Char, C-H-A-R, Char Steakhouse. And if I'm not mistaken, this was not identified as being inside Tarrytown Mall, but that's what it looks like to me. That looks like Tarrytown Mall. And it looks like it's beside, oh shoot, I just went blank, that little store, a country store. I forgot what it's called now. It's on the tip of my tongue. If anyone knows, give me a call and bail me out here. But I can't say I remember ever eating at the Char Steakhouse in Tarrytown Mall. Here, someone knows. Let's see here. Hello there, you on the air?
Okay, there was a small chain of those Char Steakhouses that were owned by the Dr. Carnegie's. Dr.
Okay.
Lim Carnegie and Dr. Bob Carnegie. They never had anything to do with running them, managing them, and anything, but they just coughed up the money. And at one time, I think, in the 60s, when I was college age, they were kind of strode around eastern North Carolina. Somewhere about the same time that J.R. Wordsworth would have put in place J.R. Steakhouse out there on 301, but the Carnegies at the Sanatorium Hospital were involved in that.
Now, is this here at Tarrytown Mall?
I'm not exactly sure where it has all the look of it to me.
It does to me too.
There in the wing where Mr. Dunderbox was, and
down toward Montgomery Ward's.
The stores that were in there, that's been 50 years ago plus.
Yeah, and I don't remember this, and I spent a lot of time in Tarrytown Mall, particularly in my teens. But this reminds me of some of the stores that were in Tarrytown Mall, and it was not identified, but it was in another one of these Charlie Killebrew collections that was supposed to be from Rocky Mount, so that's why I included it. But all right, buddy, thanks again. Okay. All right, Lee, this next set of pictures I do know is from Rocky Mount, and this is a Daltridge Oil Company. And there's, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. We're about to run out of time, so let's just go ahead through these, Lee. I wanted to kind of get them all in. These are all Daltridge Oil Company, and they appear to be from the 1960s and 50s. There's a kind of a combination. And, of course, at that time, they were a pure oil dealer. Oh, we got a call. Hello there, you on the air?
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, good. How you doing, Harold?
Good. Just brought back some memories. The pictures, the photos that you had down at Lakeside of the kids during the graduation of
Glenwood Hall,
kindergarten or play school or preschool. Dottie was one of those students at that time, and I probably have photos like that somewhere around the house. But it brought back some memories because she was proud of the fact that she had attended that school and had enjoyed it there in her early days.
Well, I never knew that, and I'm glad you called in and shared that with us. I miss your wife. She was a sweet lady.
Well, thank you. You mentioned the Tarrytown buildings there. It appears that the building beyond that restaurant there may have been the old Hickory.
That's what I was trying. Hickory Farms.
Yeah, Hickory Farms.
That's
the
what
Hickory Farms.
Yep,
it was.
I think you're right. I think you're exactly
that Bobby Gorham, I think, might have had an interest in.
Yep.
In that franchise at that time. And they sold meats and sausages and different breads and anything dealing with that product at that time.
Right. All right. Yeah.
I remember the Daltridge Oil Company, of course, in those days.
Oh yeah. And they're still going strong today. They've been around a long time and still going strong. Sure are.
Doing a good job. Keep up the work.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Here. Have a good night.
See you later. Thank you, buddy. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Lee, I think, is that the last one up tonight? Say that is? Okay, bring it on back to me. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us tonight. I want to thank all you for calling in and sharing your memories and your thoughts with us, and certainly want to thank Mr. Wallace Abernathy for sending these pictures that he sent. Eric Dawson, as always, and of course, Harold Winston there, sharing memories. That's what this show is all about, folks, sharing memories and sharing times of old Rocky Mount. So thank you all so much for being a part of the show and helping making the show enjoyable for me. Have yourselves a great week. Take care of yourselves and be kind to each other, folks. We'll see you next week and more Wayback Wednesday. Good night.
You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Flores Glass and Mirror Company, servicing the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.